Hi, this is Marshall Slayton at Bankruptcy University. I want to thank you for joining us today. And today my guest is John Snow. He's the Special Finance Manager at Jim Price Auto in Charlottesville, Virginia. And he's going to help answer one of the real big questions that my clients have. Can I get a car loan after I file bankruptcy? So John, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Marshall. Pleasure to be here.
So you've been doing how'd you get into being the special finance manager in Charlottesville for Jim Price Auto?
We recognized a need through multiple clients coming in over and over again, and us not being able to extend financing conventionally. So we wanted to take a harder look at how we could keep local people people throughout the state out of buy here, pay here's, and we started working directly with attorneys and have had a lot of success over the last almost full decade of working with all of the best attorneys in the area.
Great. So I know you've been doing this for a long time. So what's the number one biggest mistake people make when they're shopping for a car?
They undervalue their own viability in the marketplace. And what I mean by that is they don't understand how good a risk that they are from a lending perspective. So somebody prior to filing bankruptcy doesn't look like a very viable risk on paper. So you get a lot of turndowns, you have very high interest rates surrounded around that risk. So once somebody has filed bankruptcy, taken their control effectively of their past and rectified it in real time, then all of a sudden their viability goes way up, and they can almost really take control of what they are able to purchase.
Oh, wow. So bankruptcy actually is a benefit for if you want to get a better car loan as opposed to a detriment, because we've all heard that myth that everybody says, oh, I'm going to file bankruptcy and I'll never get a loan. Have you had experiences where people have come in and said that to you and you've been able to help them out?
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's more misinformation out there than there is information that's credible. And yes, we do try to extend the idea of, after we've exhausted, 4, 5, 6, 10 different lenders, after we've exhausted all the options, we might suggest, maybe this isn't the right time, or maybe you need money down, maybe a cosigner. When all those things don't materialize, then we might say, well, listen, if you don't have a way out and your car's not working properly, you might want to, reach out to a trusted an attorney for a consult.
Right, and then after those people file bankruptcy, they come back to you. What are you able to do with them? Compare what you were able to offer them pre-bankruptcy to what you were able to get them post-bankruptcy. And if you have an example, like somebody that'd be great to sort of share.
Yeah, it's night and day, Marshall. It goes from with a W-2 verifiable income. Okay, that's the biggest takeaway. If you have verifiable income or even 1099 income, verifiable income, we average, as long as they're full-time 40, not seasonal employees, we average approximately 90% approval rating.
Wow, those for people post-bankruptcy.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Wow.
The day
So
after they file, Chapter 7.
Right. So Chapter 7, full-time job, and you're working 40 hours, and you're getting a W-2 or a 1099, so you can validate that. You have a 95% approval rate. And what kind of cars are you getting people into for that?
It's it depends. Right now, in this post-COVID time, it's a little crazy right now. Typically speaking, it would be late modeled used. Nowadays, because we have very very few used, I would say new cars right now are dominating the marketplace as we speak.
Okay. And like what's an average interest rate that people can expect to pay post bankruptcy, so they can compare that to what they're being offered pre bankruptcy? What are you normally seeing for people?
Absolutely. Post bankruptcy, we do have some single digit interest rates. That's the exception, not the rule. I would say if we had to average all of the clients, we would come up with an average of 15.99% interest as an average.
Okay.
Conversely, pre-bankruptcy, we're looking at around 24 to 26 with exorbitant fees, which make your inventory choices much more narrow. So not only does your interest rates go down, but your inventory selection goes way up.
So you get more choices for less money, right? And the payments, what are the payments average that you got for people that, give me a range, of where lowest to highest
Marshall, it's
or
all
average?
right. Yeah, it's all based on debt to income ratios. So you have lenders that they want you to be successful in your loan, and they want you to pay on time. They want you to be successful. So the last thing they want to do is put you in too much car payment. So the car payment could range from as little as $250 a month, even less, or up to about $900 per month, depending upon your ability to pay back or what the customer wants to pay. The beauty of it is you have choices.
Right. Yeah, the more choices, and that gives you a better option to pick the right car that's for you, as opposed to being stuck in one that maybe has too many miles on it, or is too old, or has problems with it. So we've been talking about Chapter 7 bankruptcies, but there are two different types of bankruptcies that people can file, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is sort of where you file bankruptcy, and then you're done and discharged in as quick as 90 days. Chapter 13, right, you're making a payment over a 3 to 5 year period. What are the differences that you see for your clients who come in who, like say, as opposed to doing a Chapter 7, are in a Chapter 13? What do they have to do in order to get approved for a loan? What are the differences from what we've been talking about?
Well, Chapter 13, it does make it a little bit more complicated, but it does not prevent them from making a purchase. What we would need at that point is a confirmed Chapter 13 plan to secure financing. So there is a period of time where a client might be interested in filing, and then they have to get with all of the creditors. So there's about a 60 to 90 day period of time after somebody files a Chapter 13 to where we are kind of in a point where we can't do business. But what we can do in that period of time is we can get all of the paperwork in order so that we have an action plan for the day that confirmation hearing is held.
So once the plan is confirmed, which you're correct, it's about 60 to 90 days after the case is filed, that's when the judge blesses the bankruptcy and says this payment plan works. It ticks all the boxes, satisfies all the creditors, satisfies the law, and gets the judge's blessing. And at that point, once that order is entered, that person can come in and get a new car, right? Now, there are some requirements, right, that has to be approved by the court. What are those?
Yes, sir. Well, the court, and typically, we kind of defer to the attorneys because, we deal with some different districts, and there's some different measures in each district. But typically, in the Western District, as long as the interest rate is below 18.99%, they budget for the payment, which, from my end with the lenders that I use, that's going to happen because it's a math problem. It has to be in accordance to their actual income that they, supported, the documentation with. And so it's a case by case, but it's very effective, and we've had great results. But really, in a Chapter 13, it's more attorney dependent. It's very much attorney dependent because you or an attorney like yourself is going to have to help me complete the financing. And so it's really a team effort.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is that the attorney in our district, in the Western District of Virginia, if the total cost of that car loan exceeds $15,000, so the way the court calculates that is if the number of payments multiplied by the payment amount exceeds $15,000, then that person must get court approval. And that takes filing a motion, having a hearing, getting it approved. But what you're telling me is that in your experience, and I've seen this too, the judge, as long as the interest rate is below 19%, and the budget shows that they can afford that payment and they can demonstrate that they need the car, which is usually the case, right? You need a car to get to and from work. If the person can't get to work, they can't make their planned payment. So the judge wants them to succeed, just like the car lender. So as long as you can tick those boxes, right, the judge will most likely approve it. Now, in our district, if that total cost of that loan is below $15,000, so let's say the monthly payment times the number of payments comes to $14,000, you don't need court approval, and you can get in that car. And you're telling me that you can actually do that for some people. You can find some vehicles for people that meet their needs that come in below that $15,000 threshold.
Yeah, absolutely, and we do them. It has been harder post COVID. Hopefully, things will get back to where they were, and we'll start doing more of these types of loans. But absolutely, we are prepared and have done, many units under that circumstance.
Great, great. So it sounds like, unlike what we talk about the myths about bankruptcy, that actually the inability to get a finance is actually one of those myths, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And people sell them short all the time. And one of my biggest complaints with some attorneys is they just don't do a good enough job of educating their clients, because they really are in a position to they've taken their hard earnest money and they have actively spent it to try to repair their credit. And after they've done that, everything has changed when it comes to financing, and I just don't feel like that message is communicated well enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, there's lots of information about their misinformation about bankruptcy and how it actually hurts your credit when it actually improves your credit. That's what I see. I mean, I get a credit report for every one of my clients, and I'll tell you, 95% of their scores go up. The credit report I get has their current score and estimates what their score will be 12 months after bankruptcy. 95% of them go up, right? Because most of them are in the 500, low 600s. Well, most of those are going to go up, and that's been my experience, and that's what the data shows. So let's wrap it up here. So in the end, what do you think are your top 3 suggestions for people who are looking to get approved for a loan after filing bankruptcy? What are the things that they need to do to make sure that they're in the best position possible to have the biggest choice, biggest selection of vehicle, and get the lowest monthly payment and the lowest interest rate?
Yeah, well, after having filed, they typically, a client, after they file, they're going to get about 13 pieces of offers in the mail, 13 pieces of mail offering financing. And what I typically try to prepare clients for when I do meet them prior to them even, officially filing, is letting them know, listen, you're now in the marketplace as somebody that is a very good risk for a lender to send you a piece of mail, and you should expect to get 13 or so pieces of mail with offers to finance, Aaron's Rent-A-Center. I mean, you name it, you're going to get some offers from people to make purchases. And what I tell people, in order to get your best call from one of our lenders, is that you save those smaller items for after you make your big ticket items. So whether you want a car or your whatever that you may be, you're going to want to get the biggest ticket item, because everything is verified. And that's the beauty of the program, and that's what most people don't understand is how good they are, because they have a good job. They're going to verify that you are in fact working there, and then once that happens, really it's a green light, and it's just really good to see people
so it sounds like what you're saying is that if you get that, what it sounds like you're saying is that if you eat up, you only have so much credit that you can get after you file bankruptcy, right? You file bankruptcy, you're debt-free. There's only so much credit based upon your debt-to-income ratio, basically how much you make versus how much debt. And if you eat up that debt-to-income ratio with little things like Rent-A-Center or whatever, that's going to make it less likely for you to get a car. So sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is that people should look at that big purchase first, the thing that you really need, as opposed to the little thing like going to Rent-A-Center or Aaron's or Schul Furniture and getting a piece of, a TV or a piece of furniture, something that it would be much easier for you to save up and pay cash for and save money, because those interest rates at those places are pretty high. I'm guessing they're going to be higher than the 18 to 19% that you were talking about as the average.
That is exactly right, Marshall. And they're much harder to. It's a much riskier proposition. So you really almost don't even want to take any of those offers, frankly. But if you are going to, you're going to want to put them off to the end. Some other things that we do to help clients is, we advocate for them to get a pre-approved credit card. That they have. It's $500. They give them $500. And then they'll start a line of credit, and pay that back. That helps tremendously.
Yep. So a secured credit card. That's what I tell my clients. Get a secured credit card. The key though is, and you can go to, search for best secured credit card, and there are lots of them out there, right? You want to make sure when you get one that is reports to the credit reporting agencies, because not all of them do.
Exactly.
So if you get one and it doesn't report to the credit reporting agencies, you're getting no benefit from that payment, right? The key is get it, make sure they report, and then use it and pay it off every month, even if it's just by putting your phone bill on it and then pay it off every month. So you show that history of making the payment. But I agree. One more, and you got one more tip for my clients.
One more tip, I would say, just don't settle. Don't settle. I feel that's probably just the biggest thing that people just really, they've been through so much. They don't want to be embarrassed. Maybe they've gone to 2, 3, 10 places. They don't know what to do, and it just, and sometimes they get lucky and they get discouraged. They circle back to yourself or somebody like their attorney. And then they say, well, why don't you call this guy? And then they do, and then, and then it works out, and where it's kumbaya, and then it's just, I'm like, why didn't the attorney tell him, prior to? And so, this message that you're trying to get out here today, Marshall, it's a beautiful thing, and I applaud you for it, because really it is just trying to inform the clients.
Yeah. Now the idea is that, and so many people that come into my office, they feel dejected, they're embarrassed, they feel bad, and they feel like they're not worth it. And the fact is that they are, right? And they are entitled to all that they can. They work hard for their money. They should be treated with respect. And so the ability for them to put themselves in the best position possible so they can have a reliable vehicle, so they can get to and from work, get their kids to school, get their parents to the doctor, whatever it is, that's really important, right? And bankruptcy is one of the ways that you can do that if you have found that none of those other places will give you a decent car or a decent deal. So the bottom line is, get information, figure it out, don't settle, right, and make the best decision after you get all the information, right? And I think it's safe to say that anybody that wants to talk to you can pick up the phone, call Jim Price Auto, and say, hey, can I talk to John Snow, and see if he can help me out, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, and the biggest thing on our end is identifying, who the clients are, so that we can help them, so that we don't send a client that should be sent to 4 to 5 inquiries, so that we don't just send it to 15 different lenders that have no intentions of ever lending this client any money. And so after a period of time, those inquiries stack up. So we have the ability to identify the client and get them into the right position to make the best purchase for themselves. Right.
Because every one of those inquiries is a ding on the credit score. Right? The more inquiries, when you have a certain number of inquiries, that lowers your score. And so that's why you got to be judicious about who you're applying to. So if you go to every Tom, Dick, and Harry buy your, pay your place and you apply and you get rejected, or whatever bank, that's hurting your credit score. So you want to be careful and do your research first before you start going out there and applying. Well, John, this has been really informative. I know I've learned a lot about the sort of intricacies and what goes on behind the curtain of car loans, because like everybody, I've bought a car and I've sat in the car dealership for 5 hours wondering, why is it taking so long to get financed? So I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me about this and share this information. And have a great day. Again, thanks so much, and take care, and talk to you soon. And everybody, thanks so much for joining me on this podcast. If you enjoyed this, please like us on Facebook or send us an email saying, hey, let me join your email list. But we'd love to get your feedback. You can go on my website, marshallslayton.com, and take care and have a great day.